All right. Tonight we're going to be talking about several different things, but first I wanted to kind of give an update on Jessica and the niacin she's been taking. She suffered with um, she suffered with depression and anxiety and stuff like that for quite a while. And well, I guess I'll just go over the story last year when we were um, involved in our 21 day jumpstart to better health. She was able to um, get some relief for a little while, but eventually that depression came back to her over the course of the last year. And I recalled that when we were there, we were watching some movies, documentaries, and somebody had said that they were they got like 11,000 milligrams of niacin for somebody who was in almost a comatose depression, or it was really bad, where they wouldn't even get up in the day or anything. And they started giving that person 11,000 milligrams of niacin a day, and this person came out of their depression and was acting just fine. And then somebody told their caregivers that they couldn't be giving them that much niacin, and that there would be problems. So they stopped giving it to that person, and they ended up going back into a depression. So I think it was in July or maybe June, the end of June, I asked Jessica if it would be okay if she would be willing to try that. And she said, well, I'd be willing to try just about anything right now, because it's, really bothering me that, I don't function too well with, having all these bad thoughts go through my head. And I said, well, we're not necessarily going to need to try 11,000 milligrams. That was for somebody who was really basically so bad off that they couldn't even function. And so I got some 500 milligram tablets for her, and at first she started taking about 500, I believe, and then she upped it to 1,000, and currently she's at 2,000. But one of the side effects of niacin is that you get a flushing effect. You can buy a non-flushing version, but from everything that I have read through the research that I've done, that seems to not be very effective on depression. And so I bought her the type that causes flushing, and it's a kind of an uncomfortable side effect. She did go up to, what was it, 2,500 for a while, and the side effect of the extra 500 milligrams was a little bit too much for her to handle at that point in time. She's thinking about going back to another 500 milligrams to see if it continues to be too much for her, or if maybe she can get some added benefit out of it. Anyway, so that's our kind of an update on the progress with niacin. There was a few things that I'd like to address. Let me get out my cheat sheet here. Now, I've been trying to do a lot of videos about just different things, and I'd like to actually do some videos that have to do with helping people with depression or stuff like that, and try to connect it with the different things, the different plants that you can grow and how they affect depression, anxiety, those kind of things. One of the things that I learned not too long ago was that, excuse me, one of the things I learned not too long ago was there's a direct connection between what you eat, as far as the foods with the most calories usually have the least amount of nutrition, and the foods with the least amount of calories are really packed with nutrition on generally. There's some like iceberg lettuce that has no calories, and it's good to eat, but it doesn't have a super amount of nutrition to it either. But those kind of things I'd like to be able to put together and say, okay, if you eat this food, you will, have the added benefits of these nutrients, which help with anxiety, depression, whatever, those kind of things, addictions. My wife, oh, welcome to whoever's watching. Let me go back to, I guess I chased them away. Anyway, I'd like to be able to combine those two, and so if there are people that are wanting a good layman's perspective, I guess. I only have the perspective of experience. My experience has with anxiety, depression, addiction, has to do with either in my life or as a bystander, with Jessica suffering from these things. And So, and well, let me just kind of go into the story. If I don't want to get anybody too uncomfortable, but from my perspective, a long time ago, I spent time sitting on the bar stool and not uh, not enjoying life very much, but I did, spend a lot of time there and came to the point where I understood that the only time I felt really normal was after the first 3 beers. And then I would feel normal for a little bit. And soon after that, I started to get into la la land, so to speak. But I lived my life like that for probably 10 to 15 years. And one day I got up and the doctor said to me, "Hey, Eric, you you can't really do that anymore. If you're going to continue to do that, you're going to die." And I felt bad enough to believe him. And so I stopped drinking. And previous to that, I had quit smoking because I was starting to get that chronic smoker's cough that you get pretty much all the time. You hack up a lung every morning. And I decided that I didn't want that in my life. And some of the things that, smoking, it took me a decision that I didn't want to spend that much money on it anymore. And I also came to the realization that, hey, the only time that you really smoke is when you're drinking. If you can quit smoking while you're drinking, then you're going to be able to beat this and you're going to be able to not uh, smoke anymore. But it was only after I quit drinking and quit smoking that I met Jessica. And I only happened to be there because a friend of mine needed somebody to drive them around while they were drinking, which is kind of ironic. But I met Jessica and we got together and we've been married now for almost 14 years. But it took us 7 years to have Seth because my wife is allergic to gluten, and I believe that part of that part of that was because because she was allergic to gluten. She had over the course of her life, not just with me, but over the course of her life, she had 14 or no 12, excuse me, 12. uh, Hi, Oregon Homestead, how are you doing? She had 12 miscarriages, and Seth is her lucky number 13. But she had several miscarriages before we, conceived with him, and almost 9 months to the day, um, from the day she stopped eating gluten. It was almost 9 months to the day that she actually conceived and had Seth and carried him to full term. But before that, she had never carried any pregnancy to full term, only about maybe, 5 months? Well, we are just going over a little bit of history. I had talked about what Jessica is taking for depression. And now we're just kind of going over a little bit of history because I want to kind of put together a something to help people with depression. Because we've had to deal with it, depression, anxiety, addiction in our lives. I want to give people some things that'll be able to help them from a layman's perspective. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I'm just here to tell people what we have done in our lives that have helped us. Anyway, so after these miscarriages, she had Seth, and then this is like 2.5 years later, she had Abigail. In between that, she had a gallbladder surgery. And then about, I don't know, 6 months after having Abigail, she started getting like a real bad pain in her stomach every time she ate. And she would end up vomiting. She's also had some severe hip pain from degenerative arthritis. And when you can't do a lot every day, you get put into a depression because you see things pile up and you feel like you're not worth anything. And, it just really drives you down. And so in an attempt to stop all the different kinds of pain, mental, physical, emotional, whatever, about 2 years ago now, somebody gave her some heroin. And the first time that she tried that, from that time on, she was addicted. I mean, it made the pain go away. She thought she was doing good, but in reality, what happened was, she was more disconnected. She would say, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Meijer, go shopping for a couple of hours, and I'll be home." Well, I would call her in 2 hours, and she wouldn't answer the phone. She wouldn't be available for texts, or if she did text me back, sometimes it was like 20-30 minutes later. And then she would come back and act like, maybe 4 to 5 hours later, she would come back and she would act like, she hadn't done anything wrong and everything was fine and dandy. But um, in reality, she didn't even know what was happening, and she couldn't understand why I was so upset with her. Um, I remember one time, she did, what she thought was a really nice thing, and it was a really nice thing from not only from her perspective, but by what she was trying to do. It was a really nice thing. She went to the store, and so she had won like a $500 gift voucher from our local store out here, Meyer. It's not like the Fred Meyer out in Oregon, but it's it's a different chain of Meyer stores here in Michigan. And she got me, these are a different pair, but she got me a new pair of Crocs that was fur lined, and this was like right close to Christmas time. But she had said she was going shopping for like an hour, and she didn't come back for 5 hours. And by the time she got back, I was so upset with her I could, spit nails. And this finally culminated. This, it got worse and worse and worse, until at some point in 2018, she told me what was going on, and I tried to get help for her, and um, she didn't really like the help that I had gotten. Um, and so we had issues there, but it finally culminated in April of 2018 when she OD'd. And I took her to the ER, and they saved her life. And um, I wasn't too hep on the idea of taking her to the ER at that point in time, because I had taken her so many times and they hadn't done anything to help her out. But that particular night, I believe God was, watching over the situation with extreme care, because we I got her to the front desk, and they didn't make her sign in. They didn't take her to the triage. They didn't make us wait in the waiting room. We went directly back to the ER, and um, we had a good, uh, help, where they understood this is an OD, and we need, they gave her Narcan for it, and they uh, put her in a room and watched over her all night. And when they got out, when we got out about 5 o'clock in the morning, I went and took her and the rest of my family straight up north, because that was the only safe place that I knew where she could be. And I took her to her mom and dad's, and it was away from the people that were here. We actually had a next door neighbor that was feeding her this stuff. And so I was just extremely happy to be able to get, she dried out up there, and little by little, I have gotten my wife back. And I'm grateful for that. But because of all of that, that's why, from a layman's point of view, I want to be able to help people with these kind of issues and give them a different perspective on what they can do in life, to maybe give them a knot in their rope to hold on to, that hey, other people have been through this. They know a little bit of the experience, that maybe not exactly, but a little bit of the experience that I'm going through. I know that Oregon Homestead, I know that you said you know most of those pain issues. What do you do if you're still in the room? What do you do when to deal with those pain issues? Anyway, while I'm waiting for an answer, uh, oh yeah, one of the other things that Jessica has found that helped with her degenerative arthritis pain is herbal calcium. Um, you can take that, and I don't know how many. Do you know how many milligrams you're on per day? I'm getting a blank click right now. she, she's she's not thinking about that. Anyway, she is on herbal calcium, and the herbal calcium has helped her quite a bit. Uh, until recently, she's been pretty much totally out of pain with her hips. Okay, Oregon Homestead says I have been taking CBD oil, the only thing that seems to help. Okay, all right. I haven't had much experience with CBD oil, but yeah, I guess Jessica said she's tried it, but it really pretty much knocked her out, which is not very good for trying to take care of two children, 2 and 6, or I mean, excuse me, 3.5 and 6.
4 capsules.
4 capsules, like 400 milligrams.
I think it's 400 milligrams each.
400 milligrams in each capsule.
Yeah.
Okay, so about 1,200 milligrams a day. And those pain issues were stopped until recently when the doctor put her on some metformin for her diabetes, and the metformin actually seemed to, I don't know, leach, I guess, the effects of what the calcium does away, so that she started getting her pain in her hips back. So she has ceased to take the metformin, but is it getting better?
Very slowly.
It's getting better slowly but surely. And so that's about where we're at with that. But one of the things, I think one of the most active ingredients in the herbal calcium is comfrey. So if you don't have access to herbal calcium, but you do have access to a comfrey plant, do your research, number one, and decide for yourself, number two. But I have found that, I can take comfrey and grind it up and put it on my food, just like like an oregano or basil or anything like that. And yeah, you can also make a tea out of it, and it will definitely help with different things here. The herbal the herbal calcium that she takes here. Let me see if I can get a good picture of it. This is from a company called Simple Remedies. That's who we went through for our 21-day jumpstart to better health last year. You can find the videos on our website under, I think I put a playlist of kind of some of the stuff that we went through. But it has horsetail grass, comfrey root, oat straw, and lobelia in it. And lobelia will help you with anxiety, and also it will kind of help you with some of your stress as well.
That's what we're going through right now.
Oh yeah. A friend of mine got her blood sugars under control following John McDougall's food plan, and we have the book to Maximum Weight Loss with Dr. McDougall. We're also reading a book. Can you grab that How Not to Die? We're reading a book by Dr. Michael Greger, I believe it is, called How Not to Die. And it's a very good, we're getting a lot of benefits from it. But I said this earlier, but I'll repeat it because I don't know who all was here. Okay, oh yeah, here's our books that we got. This one is Dr. McDougall's program for maximum weight loss. And then we have also How Not to Die by Michael Greger. And I've also been watching some videos by on a YouTube channel called Chef AJ. If you go to Chef AJ, there's a, let me see if I can find it here real quick. There is a, library. The Dr. McDougall's you have, or How Not to Die? Okay, Ultimate Weight Loss by Chef AJ. This is where I heard, oh, here, maybe I should do that. And then you can see the thumbnail. On that video by Chef AJ, I came to the understanding that the foods with the lowest amount of calories have the highest amount of nutrition. And so you can get some really nutrient dense foods and eat a lot of them. Yeah, I see that. So you follow her too. That's great. You've lost over 100 pounds following Dr. McDougall. I have all three people's books. Wow. Cool. Yeah. We'll start our own little community, I guess. Yeah, Jessica says she wants to lose about 96 more pounds. About 96 more pounds.
Lost 14.
She's already lost about 14, and I haven't been very faithful right now, but I've lost probably about 6 or so. Anyway, so from a layman's perspective, I would that's what I want. I have a goal of doing is putting these together for people, not really giving them medical advice, but saying, hey, this has helped me. And you do your research, you can try it too. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, then you'll have to go and try something different. But I think that the things that work for one person can work for a lot of people, because people in general are the same. You know, they might have some different, different ideas, or they might have different ways of dealing with things.
Depression and addiction.
Yeah, kind of like with depression and addiction. We've been going to these out here in Michigan. They have a, a group of people called Families Against Narcotics, and 276. Wow. Well, that's a lot of weight. I mean, that's 125 pounds or so. That is a lot of weight to lose. Oregon Homestead, it says I need to lose a lot more. It was 399, now I'm 276, and
Yeah.
that is great. You've obviously been following it a lot more closely than I have. I have been trying to eat healthy, but at the same time, I get sidetracked. When uh, I don't know, it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. One of my friends got into I don't know, he thought he was having a stroke, but this friend was up in Cadillac, and I was like 3 hours away, and he calls me. He says, "Hey, um, I'm," basically he said, "You were in my phone, and so I called you. But I'm looking out my front door here, and I don't recognize anything. Are you my friend?" Almost. He had very little recollection of who I was. And so I advised him that he needed to go directly to the hospital. And then I jumped in a car with another friend of mine, and we drove up there. And on the way, my other friend, he just grabbed some chips. And that day, something inside me clicked and said, okay, chips is easy food. We're on a road trip, and we need to get there, and that's what we're going to eat. But over the next 6 years, I have taken Jessica to the doctor. I don't even know how many times we went to Bronson, which is in Kalamazoo, which is an hour away from us. We went to her mom and dad's a lot of times. We went on just different road trips to go to different places. And that thing stuck in my head. And so most of what I have on me right now is from eating junk food, because we were on the road, and and that's my fault. I gotta take responsibility for my choice. But I'm slowly but surely getting back on track. And I think we are slowly but surely getting back on track. It's a lot easier to, if you look at those videos where they demolish a building, they can demolish a building in a few hours. But when you're building something from the ground up, it takes time. Oregon Homestead said I had lost a lot more, but I went into a kind of emotional shock from losing it so fast. Back on track, losing again now. Yeah, I can appreciate. Uh, I can appreciate being in shock about a lot of things. For
Back to the chip thing too. When you were younger and you guys were traveling, that was the go-to for your dad.
Oh yeah.
To keep him awake.
Oh yeah, my dad, when I was growing up, I mean, we took a lot of road trips. We lived in Colorado, and for a while, my grandma and grandpa lived in Florida, and I had another grandma and grandpa that lived up in Washington State, and we would go there, every Christmas and every summer. We would take a road trip somewhere. And then we moved here to Oregon, excuse me, we did move to Oregon when I was 15, and we lived there for 3 years. And that was, I loved Oregon. It was Hermiston, Oregon is where we lived. But anyway, we moved here to Michigan, and what my grandparents moved again. One of them lived in Minnesota. So we would always go to Minnesota or Washington on our vacations. Most of the time we would maybe deviate and go to a national park or do something that was not just the family oriented, but we would get in a little bit of sightseeing. But my dad, because we were on limited time, we would drive straight through. We didn't stop at motels. We didn't do any of that. We would stop every 400 miles or whatever it was when the gas tank was empty, or if you saw like really super cheap gas, we would stop then and get gas, and everybody would pile out of the car, use the restroom, get drinks, get chips or candy bars or whatever it was. Then we'd pile back in the car, and we were gone in like 15, maybe 20 minutes tops, and back on the road. Well, it takes us half an hour to an hour sometimes to get back on the road. And but this was Watermelon Town. Yeah, Hermiston is Watermelon Town. That's true. We would get back on the road, and my dad would be driving at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And then, I mean, if they absolutely had to, we'd pull over in a rest area. But most of the time, my mom or somebody else would take over and continue driving. So that's the way I grew up, and I saw this whole country that way. I've been to Alaska. I've been to every state in the Union except for Hawaii. And so I did have that background where, even though I had gotten, I had started living more healthfully, something inside me just kind of clicked when that happened. When my friend got in trouble that time, it turned out that he didn't have a stroke, which was, praise the Lord, but he had had a lot of emotional problems around that time, and it was like his mind just kind of shut down and said, I'm not gonna think about this anymore. I don't know if it was a kind of PTSD or what, but um, he slowly regained his memory, and he didn't have any of the usual side effects, that come from stroke, like, paralysis or speech impediments or anything like that. So when that happened, from that time until, probably the last 2 or 3 months has it been that we've been kind of fighting this off and on, trying to not go buy chips or go buy candy bars or that kind of thing, and we still fall from time to time, but we're getting better at it. Yeah, it's getting easier to cut the fat out because when Jessica, since she had her gallbladder out, now if she puts a lot of fat into her system, uh, that fat goes from being just, yummy on the tongue to pain in the tummy. You've been to Washington, California, Hawaii, Illinois, and Missouri besides Oregon, but only lived in Oregon. Do you mind if I ask what part of Oregon? Um, would you be willing to be on the live stream with us? I'm kind of new to this and I don't know if I can do it, but it would be kind of like, are we on Dr. McDougall's support group? I don't think I've been on that.
You can go to his online, go to his,
Like Facebook?
no, just type in Dr. McDougall and go there, and I think you can sign up there, right? I haven't been to his page in a long time. Flea-bitten varmints.
Flea-bitten varmints.
Oh, look, they're just. I want showing like that. See, look.
Ah. You live in Salem now, but live almost everywhere between Portland and Eugene. Well, that's quite a quite a bit of territory. I've only been over to that side of the state a few times. My cousins used to live in. It's free and it's on his webpage. Yes, that's for the Dr. McDougall's support group. Um, if you okay, okay, okay. Um, I don't know. Let me see if I can send this. Okay, there's an invite if you would like. Um, you go by Rosie on the web page. There's if you click on that link, I believe that you should be able to. Let's see if I've shared it. Yeah. Okay. If you click on that link, it should bring you back here, and you can be on the live stream if you so desire. Like I said, I haven't done this before, so let me know if you are trying and you can't get in. Um, let's see. Thinking there were some other things I was wanting to talk about. So, what would you like to see? If you had us do, for us to do more live streams, um, ah, okay. Um, I guess when she gets back, if she wants to, Jessica will be talking a little bit about um, I guess kind of the state of mind, what goes through your mind when you're having depression and anxiety, and possibly, a little bit of the mindset when you are um, addicted to a substance. I don't know how long she'll want to talk or um, how much she has to say, but I'm going to kind of switch um, subjects after she decides. Did you want to talk anymore about like the mindset or whatever for you overdid it in the garden, back and hip or complaining? Well, I hope you feel better. Did you want to talk about any of that kind of thing right now, or I can let you have the chair? You're getting tired. Okay. Well, maybe we've already been on here for an hour. Maybe we'll take a break for tonight. It's 11:51 out here in Michigan.
Kids will be up about 6.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the kids. The kids will be up at whenever, like 6, which means I'll need a nap tomorrow. But it's supposed to be raining here, so I probably won't be able to get much done outside. I want to thank you for coming on, especially Oregon Homestead and anybody else who was here. Thank you so much for watching. And I guess that's our 2 cents for the day. Thank you for participating. Well, hopefully I can pick up. She's given me permission to pick up tomorrow night. Cool. Well, I'll have to go in and think about what I want to talk about tomorrow night. You can what?
Might be able to go into.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you, Oregon Homestead, and everybody else who is watching. God bless you guys. And maybe we'll see you tomorrow night.